Captain Sarah Chen stood motionless on the bridge of the HSS Prometheus, watching Earth's first contact scenario transform into humanity's worst nightmare. The massive holographic projection of Supreme Arbiter Vexthor loomed before her, its crystalline features refracting light in ways that made her eyes hurt. "Your species has been judged." The alien's voice resonated through the bridge, each word precise and cold. "The Galactic Consortium has determined that humanity's inclusion in interstellar society presents an unacceptable risk. You will surrender your military assets and submit to protective oversight, or face immediate extinction." Sarah's fingers tightened on the captain's chair, her knuckles white. The Prometheus, humanity's first true warship capable of faster-than-light travel, suddenly felt very small against the backdrop of the massive alien fleet that had appeared in high Earth orbit less than an hour ago. "Supreme Arbiter," she kept her voice steady, "we request time to consult with Earth's governing bodies regarding your demands." Her eyes flicked to the tactical display, where hundreds of alien vessels hung in formation around her planet. Each one dwarfed the Prometheus, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly iridescence that spoke of technology centuries beyond Earth's capabilities. "You have 6 Earth hours." Vexthor's crystalline features shifted in what might have been contempt. "We have studied your history extensively. Your species moves from conflict to conflict, developing ever more efficient ways of dealing death. You split the atom and immediately used it as a weapon. You reached your moon and immediately began planning military installations there. Even now, your first faster-than-light vessel is a warship." Dr. James Wong, the ship's chief scientist, spoke up from his station. "The Prometheus is a research vessel with defensive capabilities." "Silence." Vexthor cut him off. "Your deceptions do not fool us. We have analyzed your vessel. The quantum computing core that powers your ship was clearly designed for weapons targeting. Your hull composition suggests preparation for combat. Even your crew selection betrays your true intentions." Sarah felt her crew's eyes on her. They had trained for first contact scenarios, but nothing like this. The Prometheus had been humanity's hope for the stars, a carefully balanced compromise between scientific exploration and military necessity. Now that very compromise was being used against them. "Lieutenant Rivera," she called to her tactical officer, keeping her eyes on Vexthor's projection, "what's your analysis of their fleet?" "Their technology is incredible, Captain." Rivera's voice was tight with professional concern. "Energy readings suggest weapons we can't even begin to understand. Their shields appear to operate on principles that violate what we thought were universal constants. If they decide to attack." He left the implications hanging. The next 6 hours were a blur of emergency conferences, desperate planning sessions, and mounting tension. Earth's governments argued and debated, but in the end, the choice was clear. Humanity would not submit to becoming a protected species, stripped of its right to self-determination. When the deadline approached, Sarah gathered her crew on the bridge. 400 men and women, representing the best humanity had to offer, looked to her for direction. The ship's quantum core hummed beneath their feet, its experimental processors calculating combat solutions faster than any computer ever built. "The consortium believes they know us," Sarah's voice carried across the bridge. "They've studied our history, analyzed our technology, and decided we're too dangerous to be trusted with our own destiny. But they've made a critical mistake." She stood from her chair, facing her crew. "They think they understand human nature because they've watched our wars. But they've missed something fundamental about who we are." "What's that, Captain?" Rivera asked, his hands hovering over the tactical controls. Sarah smiled, and there was steel in it. "They've forgotten that every great human achievement, every breakthrough, every pivot point in our history came when someone looked at impossible odds and decided to try anyway. Yes, we've had our wars. Yes, we've made terrible mistakes. But we've also split the atom to power cities, reached the moon to expand human knowledge, and built this ship to explore the stars." The tactical display lit up as the alien fleet began to move. Sarah returned to her chair, her voice carrying the weight of history. They think they're facing a primitive species with delusions of grandeur. Let's show them what humanity does best: the impossible. Battle stations. As klaxons sounded throughout the ship, Dr. Wong called out from his station. "Captain, I've been analyzing their transmissions. There's something odd about their network architecture. It's incredibly advanced, but also rigid, almost crystalline in its structure." Sarah's eyes narrowed as she processed this information. The quantum core's displays flickered with combat solutions, each one calculated and discarded in microseconds. Then she saw it, a pattern in the chaos, a possibility that no logical species would ever consider. "Dr. Wong, I need you to tell me everything you can about their communication systems. Lieutenant Rivera, begin charging all weapons systems, but do not target their ships." She leaned forward in her chair, a plan forming in her mind. If they want to see humanity's true nature, let's give them a demonstration they'll never forget. The alien fleet loomed closer, their weapons charging with enough power to reduce Earth to ash. But on the bridge of the Prometheus, humanity's first defenders prepared to prove that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't the size of your guns, but the ability to think in ways your enemy never imagined. Dr. Wong's fingers flew across his console as the alien fleet's weapons reached full charge. "Captain, I've confirmed my initial analysis. Their entire command and control structure operates on crystalline quantum networks, beautiful in their complexity, but inherently fragile." Sarah finished, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Like any perfect crystal, hit it at exactly the right frequency. The bridge crew watched as the first alien salvos launched, beams of coherent energy that made their most powerful weapons look like flashlights. But Sarah had already set her plan in motion. "Execute Protocol Omega," she ordered. "Dr. Wong, initiate the quantum core's interference pattern. Lieutenant Rivera, shields at maximum, but divert 60% of our weapon power to the core." The Prometheus's experimental quantum computer had been designed to process combat data in ways traditional computers couldn't match. But Sarah had realized something the aliens had missed. In their quest for technological perfection, they'd created a system that couldn't handle chaos. "Broadcasting now," Wong announced. The Prometheus's quantum core began transmitting what appeared to be garbage data, random, unpredictable patterns that should have been filtered out by any advanced communication system. But these patterns weren't random at all. The first alien shot struck the Prometheus's shields. The impact was tremendous. But the ship held. What happened next stunned even the human crew. The alien fleet's perfect formation began to waver. Their ships, Rivera stared at his tactical display in disbelief. "They're losing synchronization with each other. Our quantum noise is creating cascading errors in their network." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. They built their entire military might on the assumption that advancement meant perfection. They never considered that imperfection might be an advantage. The Prometheus's garbage data was exploiting the fundamental weakness in the aliens' crystalline networks. Like a high-frequency sound shattering a wine glass, the chaotic patterns were creating resonance effects that their perfect systems couldn't filter out. "Multiple ships are going into emergency shutdown," Rivera reported. "Their weapon systems are cycling randomly. They're losing control of their own technology." But victory wasn't assured yet. Several alien vessels, apparently operating on backup systems, launched a coordinated attack. The Prometheus shuddered under their assault. "Shields at 40%, Rivera called out. "We can't take much more of this." "We don't need to," Sarah replied. "Dr. Wong, increase power to the quantum transmitter. Lieutenant Rivera, plot us a course directly through their formation." "Captain," Rivera's voice was strained, "that's suicide, even with their systems compromised. Trust me, Lieutenant. Sometimes the best defense is to be exactly where your enemy thinks you'd never dare to go." The Prometheus surged forward, its quantum core broadcasting waves of calculated chaos that sent ripples of disruption through the alien fleet. Ships that could have vaporized Earth began to move erratically, their perfect synchronization shattered by patterns they'd never evolved to handle. Supreme Arbiter Vexthor is hailing us, Communications Officer Martinez announced. On screen, Sarah ordered, standing from her chair. The crystalline alien's features were distorted, its previous composure shattered. What? What have you done? This is impossible. No, Sarah corrected him. This is humanity. You looked at our history and saw only violence. You should have looked deeper. We learned to split the atom because we asked what if. We reached the moon because we dared to dream. And we built this ship not just to fight, but to prove that the universe is bigger than anyone's preconceptions. Your primitive technology, Vexthor began, is exactly as advanced as it needs to be. Sarah cut him off. You built perfect systems because you believed perfection was the height of evolution. We built adaptable systems because we learned long ago that survival doesn't belong to the strongest or the most advanced. It belongs to those who can change, who can think differently, who can turn their very imperfections into strengths. The alien fleet hung in disarray around them, their mighty weapons silenced not by superior firepower, but by humanity's fundamental understanding of chaos and adaptation. You have a choice now, Sarah continued. You can keep trying to force the galaxy into your perfect order, or you can learn what we learned millennia ago, that true civilization is built not on perfection, but on the wisdom to embrace diversity, even when it scares us. The bridge crew held their breath as they waited for Vexthor's response. The future of Earth hung in the balance, but for the first time since first contact, humanity wasn't the one at a disadvantage. Vexthor's holographic image flickered as the Prometheus's quantum interference continued to disrupt the alien fleet's networks. His crystalline features shifted through patterns that might have been rage, confusion, or both. You cannot comprehend the consequences of your actions, he said. The Consortium's order has maintained peace across 12,000 star systems for millennia. We cannot allow chaos to. Look around you. Sarah gestured to the tactical display showing the disorganized alien fleet. Your perfect order just got disrupted by a primitive species you were ready to enslave. Maybe it's time to reconsider what order really means. A new alert flashed on Rivera's console. Captain, multiple hyperspace signatures detected. More Consortium ships incoming. Sarah had expected this. The Prometheus had bloodied the Consortium's nose, but humanity was still drastically outnumbered. What happened next would determine not just Earth's fate, but potentially the future of galactic civilization itself. Dr. Wong, she called out, what's the status of Project Mirror? The scientist's fingers danced across his console. Ready, Captain. Though I still think this is theoretically impossible. Good thing humans don't let impossible stop us, Sarah smiled. Execute. The Prometheus's quantum core, already broadcasting interference patterns, shifted to a new frequency. But this time, instead of creating chaos, it began perfectly mimicking the Consortium's own communication protocols. Signal penetration achieved, Wong reported. We're in their network. This was the true genius of humanity's first FTL ship. While the Consortium had built their technology on principles of perfect order, humans had created systems that could adapt and evolve. The Prometheus's quantum core wasn't just disrupting their networks, it was learning from them. Deploying the package now, Wong announced. Throughout the alien fleet, something unprecedented began to happen. Their rigid crystalline networks started receiving data they couldn't ignore, because it was in their own language, using their own protocols. But the content was pure humanity. What are you doing? Vexthor demanded, his image becoming increasingly unstable. Sharing. Sarah replied simply. Everything. Our history, our art, our music, our dreams. Not just our wars, but why we fought them. Not just our achievements, but how many times we failed before succeeding. We're showing you what you missed in your analysis of our species. The alien ship's weapons powered down as their crews became involuntarily immersed in humanity's story. Through their perfect networks, they experienced Earth's greatest triumphs and deepest tragedies. They felt the chaos of human emotion, the power of human creativity, the unrelenting drive that had taken humanity from caves to the stars. This is madness. Vexthor struggled to maintain his composure. You cannot expect us to process such disorder. That's exactly what we expect. Sarah stood firm. Because that's what civilization really is, not the absence of chaos, but the wisdom to learn from it. Every piece of human art, every scientific breakthrough, every step forward we've ever taken came from embracing the unknown and finding beauty in imperfection. The incoming consortium reinforcements dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons charged, but they too found their networks flooded with humanity's legacy. Ship by ship, the mighty alien fleet hung motionless in space, their crews confronting something more powerful than any weapon, a fundamentally different way of seeing the universe. You face a choice now. Sarah addressed not just Vexthor, but all the consortium ships receiving their transmission. You can keep fighting to maintain your perfect order, or you can accept that true strength comes from diversity, from change, from the very chaos you fear. Rivera's console lit up with new readings. Captain, their ships. They're powering down their weapons, all of them. After a long moment, Vexthor spoke again, but his tone had changed. Perhaps we have been limited by our own perfection. Your species' ability to embrace chaos while maintaining purpose, it is something we had not considered possible. Sarah nodded. That's the thing about humans. We specialize in making the impossible possible. Maybe it's time for the consortium to learn how to do the same. The next 48 hours aboard the Prometheus became a crash course in interspecies diplomacy. The ship's mess hall, hastily converted into a conference room, hosted the most important diplomatic summit in human history. Sarah sat across from Vexthor, who had transferred his consciousness into a more manageable crystalline avatar for face-to-face discussions. Your quantum core technology. Vexthor's avatar shimmed with interest. It's simultaneously primitive and innovative. We would never have considered building computers that embrace uncertainty. Dr. Wong, who hadn't slept in 3 days, managed a tired smile. That's because you were looking for perfection. We just wanted something that works. The universe isn't perfect. Why should our computers be? Representatives from Earth's governments, hastily shuttled up to the Prometheus, watched in amazement as their alien would-be conquerors transformed into curious students of human ingenuity. The consortium's rigid hierarchy was experiencing its first taste of creative chaos, and like a dried plant finally receiving water, it was beginning to grow in new directions. There's something we still don't understand. Sarah leaned forward in her chair. Why did you really come to Earth? Your fleet could have destroyed us without warning. Instead, you gave us a chance to surrender. Why? Vexthor's crystalline form shifted colors. Displaying what they'd learned was embarrassment. Because we feared you. Our predictions showed humanity reaching our level of technology within a mere 3 centuries, an unprecedented rate of advancement. We feared what would happen when a species that embraced chaos gained the power to challenge us. So you decided to stop us before we could become a threat. Sarah nodded. But you didn't count on us already having advantages you couldn't predict. Your ability to turn weakness into strength. Vexthor's avatar pulsed with new understanding. It is not in our nature. We build perfect systems because we cannot conceive of imperfection having value. Yet your quantum core's very imperfection made it impossible for us to counter. The diplomatic discussions continued, but something more important was happening throughout the alien fleet. The data package the Prometheus had uploaded, humanity's history, culture, and achievements, was causing a revolution in consortium society. Their rigid hierarchies were beginning to bend, their perfect systems learning to adapt. Captain, Rivera called from his station. You need to see this. The tactical display showed consortium ships rearranging themselves, but not into their usual perfect formations. They were experimenting, trying new configurations, embracing uncertainty in ways that would have been unthinkable days ago. They're learning, Dr. Wong observed, not just about our technology, but about different ways of thinking. It's like watching a crystal learn to dance. Sarah watched as humanity's first real allies in the galaxy discovered something her species had known since they first looked up at the stars, that the universe was too big, too wild, and too wonderful to be confined by anyone's ideas of perfection. "We have reached a decision," Vexthor announced after consulting with the consortium leadership. "Earth will not be required to submit to oversight. Instead, we propose an exchange. We offer you full membership in the consortium, not as subjects, but as teachers." The human representatives exchanged shocked looks. Sarah fought to keep her expression neutral. "Teachers, your species has mastered something we never could, the ability to thrive in chaos, to find strength in imperfection. We believe this knowledge is essential for the consortium's evolution. In exchange, we offer access to our technology, our worlds, and our knowledge." "And if we refuse?" one of Earth's representatives asked. "Then we leave in peace," Vexthor replied, having learned a lesson more valuable than any technology, that true civilization cannot be measured by the perfection of its systems, but by its ability to embrace change. Sarah looked out the viewport at the assembled fleet, no longer a threat but a promise of things to come. Humanity had faced extinction, and instead found its place among the stars, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the very traits the consortium had feared: creativity, adaptability, and the courage to be imperfect. 10 years after the day humanity almost went to war with the galaxy, Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, watching ships from 100 different species dock and depart. The massive space station, built through human consortium collaboration, represented everything that had changed since first contact. Still hard to believe sometimes, isn't it? Dr. Wong joined her at the viewport, his hair now gray but his eyes still sharp. "We went from almost being extinct to revolutionizing galactic society." Below them, a consortium ship maneuvered into dock using an unconventional approach that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. Its crystalline hull now incorporated organic curves, a visible symbol of how far they'd come from their rigid past. "The latest reports from the exchange program are in," Sarah said, bringing up a holographic display. "Over 10,000 consortium species have adopted hybrid quantum computing systems based on our designs. They're calling it the human perspective, the idea that imperfection can be an advantage." The station itself was a testament to this new philosophy. Its design combined consortium precision with human adaptability, creating spaces that could reconfigure themselves based on need. The quantum networks that once required perfect order now thrived on controlled chaos, stronger for their ability to embrace uncertainty. "Did you see the latest breakthrough from the Cultural Integration Division?" Wong asked, grinning. A consortium artist created what they're calling chaos sculpture, crystalline structures that deliberately incorporate random elements. They're actually learning to appreciate asymmetry. Sarah nodded, remembering Vexthor's words from a decade ago. The former Supreme Arbiter had become one of humanity's strongest advocates, touring the galaxy to speak about the importance of embracing change. His crystalline form now displayed constantly shifting patterns, a personal reminder of the beauty found in imperfection. "Admiral Chen," a young officer interrupted, approaching with a datapad. "The Prometheus is ready for the ceremony." Sarah smiled at her old ship, now docked at the station's primary berth. The vessel that had saved Earth had been transformed into a museum, but its quantum core still operated, serving as a reminder of the day humanity proved that being unpredictable wasn't a weakness. It was their greatest strength. "The cadets are waiting," the officer added. "It's time for your speech." Sarah followed him to the station's Grand Assembly Hall, where thousands of beings from across the galaxy had gathered. Young officers from both human and consortium worlds sat together, part of the new Joint Space Academy that taught both advanced technology and creative problem-solving. As she took the podium, Sarah looked out at the faces, human, crystalline, and everything in between. 10 years ago, these species had been on the brink of war. Now they were building a future together. A decade ago, she began. Two civilizations met in orbit around Earth. One had achieved near perfection in their technology and society. The other was still learning, still growing, still making mistakes. Both thought they knew what made a species worthy of the stars. The hall was silent, every being focused on her words. We all learned something that day. The consortium learned that perfection without adaptation is stagnation. Humanity learned that our greatest perceived weaknesses, our chaos, our unpredictability, our willingness to embrace the impossible, were actually our greatest strengths. She gestured to the viewport, where Earth was visible in the distance, a blue jewel that had given the galaxy an invaluable gift. A new way of seeing the universe. Today, we're not just exploring the stars, we're redefining what civilization means. Every imperfect solution, every creative approach, every impossible dream we dare to chase makes us all stronger. The galaxy once feared humanity's chaos. Now it understands that without chaos, there can be no growth. As Sarah concluded her speech, the assembled beings erupted in a celebration that would have been unthinkable in the old consortium. Spontaneous, chaotic, and perfectly human. The impossible had become possible, not through force of arms or technological superiority, but through humanity's greatest gift, the ability to look at the universe's chaos and see not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. In teaching this to the galaxy, humanity had found its true destiny among the stars.